Hey guys, welcome back to the Wakilisha Podcast, which is one of Wakilisha Initiative public awareness and advocacy tools where we extend conversations on the lives of children in conflict with the law and the various actors in the juvenile justice sector at large. Wakilisha Initiative is a nonprofit organization that promotes access to justice and education for children in conflict with the law. I'm your host, Zipporah Njuguna, Head of Productions at Wakilisha. I'm thrilled to be moderating this first episode of our three-part series on access to justice and the role of law, specifically aiming to understand barriers that affect access to justice for children in conflict with the law, like what are the solutions, what is already being done, what can and should be done, what are the gaps, where can we plug in, this and so much more. A big thank you to CMS for sponsoring this mini series. I'm delighted to share this space with two of the most brilliant and passionate beings who I call colleagues and friends. And welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe if we could introduce ourselves and what do you do, and how has your 2024 been so far?
Wow. So,
Ladies first.
okay. Wow. You're
Right.
going to pull that card right now. It's Ladies' Month. So, okay. That's fine. Okay. So, I'm Joy Gitau, and I'm the co legal director at Wakili.sha Initiative. And I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, working both in the peace and justice sector. I'm currently serving as the executive director of Amani Communities Africa, a peace organization, and I also do legal practice with a very special hat for children in conflict with the law. What was the next thing?
How has your 2024 been so far?
Wow, it's going. I think first Q has been like crazy. It's just been like running around so many adjustments in life. And you know how you've like set the bar so high at the beginning of the year? And like Q1 is like to see whether you're gonna like maintain this thing. So it comes with a lot of pressure. At this point where I am now, I feel like I just need a little break. So I'm waiting for that Easter holiday. Like, yeah. So I need just that time to relax and rest. But I'm good. I thank God. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Right.
Great. My name is Brian, Brian Bright. I am the co-director of communications at Wakilisha, and I'm also a co-host of this podcast. But today I happen to sit on the guest chair, and yeah, this does feel nice to be a guest and to be hosted by my colleague and friend Zippie. 2024 has been a blur. I don't understand how we already done with 3 months. Well, at the time of recording this podcast, it's end of March. Yeah, I don't know how we're already here and talking about Q2 already. Yeah, so it's been a lot, but yeah, like Joy, looking forward to the Easter holidays this weekend and relaxing a little bit.
Awesome. As for me, my 2024 has been, first of all, like we moved from Nairobi County. But
Yeah.
I guess I was a bit hesitant when it comes to change. Like I miss the conveniency of being in Nairobi, honestly. But also I'm learning to slowly adjust to things as they come. And I'm happy to see what the rest of the year holds. Yes. So again, welcome and feel free to feel free. Sorry.
Are you sure you want us to feel free? I'm just
Yes,
kidding.
yes. Anyway, just keep the conversation light. I know it can be a bit heavy or on the topics that we discuss here, but here's your Q2. Just
Thanks.
are you ready?
Looking forward.
Yeah, let's do this.
So my first question, maybe Bright could start with this. What compelled you to take the lead in the comms department and Mutoni legal department?
Okay.
Well, Elizabeth Njambi, CEO of Wakilisha, did. But anyway, I joined Wakilisha during the pandemic. There wasn't much that was happening, and I feel like it came at a very good time when I needed something to do with my time and not just anything to fill up that space, but then something impactful. And Wakilisha was just that. And, working for an impactful cause, such as this, it made a lot of sense at the time. I started, I don't even think, I forget what my initial title was, but then
Co-director.
actually, I think it was deputy director
Yes.
of communications.
Communication.
And I hadn't done much in communications at the time, but then getting to hear what I would be doing with this, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It was, interacting with our followers on socials. And, I studied law myself. So connecting just that legal knowledge to putting it out there on social media for Wakilisha, that's how it started. And I've been here, I think it's 4 years now.
Yeah.
Since 2020. And Liz asked me to become co-director, and gladly I took it up. The podcast became one of the things that we do, and I enjoy everything that we do in the comms department at Wakilisha and what that means out there for children.
Awesome. Muthoni?
Awesome. It's so interesting to just hear how this story started. For me, it was sometime in 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just a baby. 2017, I was just deep in the campus life, and I had the privilege of meeting Njambi, and who's the CEO of this amazing organization. And she came and she's like, we used to work with her in a different organization, and she just came and told me, I have this idea. And for me, I was just sold out just because it had children involved in it. I was just I can't say I was specifically at that time passionate about children in conflict with the law. I couldn't say I knew a lot about what that meant, but I was passionate about law, and I was very passionate about children from the time I was a little girl. So I just knew that this is gonna be it. So it's been since 2017. So I was there when we were setting up the organization, trying to get a name, trying to get a logo and all those things. Up until, I can't even remember how I ended up becoming legal director. I don't know what, we can ask Njambi later what she saw, but hey, I'm here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Muthoni, I'll start with you. What are the main barriers children in conflict with the law face trying to access justice? Because as for me, I watch a lot of documentaries. Right,
Okay.
comments. I know
As
you
we
want
all
to.
know, I was cutting you some slack.
Yeah,
But
so like most of the information that I get when it comes to children and justice is predominantly not in Africa, honestly, because a lot of conversations are centered in the US. And there are various jurisdictions when it comes to different states and regions. So what did you say are the main barriers?
Yeah, and I'd like to just agree with you. Like, many people don't talk about children, especially those in conflict with the law.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that Wakilisha is fronting this.
Sure.
So they definitely face a lot of barriers trying to access justice. And when we talk about maybe access to justice, we're looking at, a system that is efficient, a system that is accessible, a system that is runs expeditiously, and more importantly, because here we're talking about children, one that is child friendly.
Yeah.
So one thing that I'll talk about is that children do face a lot of barriers, especially children in conflict with the law. Just to start with, by the time a child is apprehended, has been apprehended by the police officers or any law enforcement officers, you really don't know what kind of interaction that they have at that point with the children. Sometimes I also get that it's hard to even identify that this is a child, right? So by the time they are picked up and maybe taken to now maybe the police station and everything, the officers possibly don't even know that this is a child. And so a lot of there's a lot of exposure or possibilities of their rights being violated even at that point and throughout the general justice system up until the time when they are charged. I've experienced cases where, like, even when they're in court going to go and take plea, that is when the child raises that, hey, I'm actually a child, and when they're asked their age. And so it means that it maybe wasn't factored at the very beginning. And so you don't know what happened in between there. So so there's that. Then there's, of course, the lack of awareness as to what their rights would be for the children. Legally speaking, they're supposed to be informed. Once they're taken in, they're supposed to be informed of what their rights are, what is available for them. For example, they have access to a lawyer, which again is another challenge. Yes, the law factors for those children to be represented, and it's mandatory in the Children Act. However, you find that sometimes these lawyers are not availed immediately, and so the child is not informed from the very beginning. And then moving up, you maybe even find, yes, you've been allocated an advocate, but sometimes not all advocates, because the state provides pro bono advocates, not all of us are trained in children matters. So it's an adjustment in that sense, yeah. Okay. I think they also face a lot of challenges, of course, when they are being held in the remand centers, yeah. And of course, they are protected in that space, but there's a lot of challenges before they are being separated from their family. And, development of a child is very, very important. Their normal livelihood has switched. The fact that they are not going to school as usual, they've been put in a different environment, in an institution. So that adjustment, of course, when you're speaking in terms of psychosocial aspects, it becomes a real challenge. Yeah. Then also the fact that, and I know I hope we'll talk about stakeholders. There's also that aspect of the other stakeholders who deal with the children might also not know how to interact with the child, and that poses a challenge to the children. And yeah, so I think in a nutshell, that's what I would say would be one of the primary challenges. But just the fact that a child's life comes to a standstill, right? They don't have access to their normal livelihoods. That becomes a real adjustment in their lives, and not to say even how much time they could end up spending in those centers before their case is processed fully. Much as we know that detaining a child should be, as a matter of last resort, right? Okay. Yeah, so they do face a lot of those challenges.
Okay, just to add on that, here at Wakilisha, we promote access to justice.
Yes.
What about in terms of finances?
I think, yeah, so Wakilisha is one of the maybe organizations that has seen that gap, and also to try and augment what the state is actually doing to try and make sure that these children have access to legal representation. And so those who do not have access to a Wakilisha, of course, might not have access to an ordinary lawyer. Yeah. You might not have access to get a lawyer to pay. And that definitely poses a challenge. There's even the fact that maybe while the child is waiting for the case to be processed, they have to come to court. Even small things like getting bus fare. Yeah. Because you get that majority of these children who find themselves in such situations may not always be coming from backgrounds where they are well supported, financially. So even coming to court, you find that it's a real challenge that actually you have to support. They are coming to court, you have to support their, all those different things that they would need in the subsistence of, the case. Yeah, so there's definitely that. One thing I forgot to mention on the challenges, of course, is the delays that are there in processing the entire case. There's the ideal situation where ideally it should be processed within a certain period of time. Around 6 months, it should be concluded. But the reality is this may not always be the case. And there are so many factors that contribute to this, Sometimes it could be that there's issues processing the case from the prosecution side. And so cases end up taking so long. And a child is only a child for 18 years.
Yeah.
So if you take 3 years of their life in a system, those are years they can't get back.
Yeah.
So those delays really become a disservice to the children. Though I know there's a lot of effort to try and change that so that the reality actually matches the ideal situation. So it becomes a challenge because you also have children who, by the time they are going into custody, they are almost 18, right? And so when their education comes to a standstill, by the time the 3 years are over, going back to school is a bit difficult. They go back to society as adults. When they go home, their parents see them as adults. So how then are we taking them back to school?
Yeah.
So those are among so many other challenges that they face. Yeah.
Interesting. Right? Anything?
Well, of course, I do agree with Joy. I don't have the experience of it from the legal point of it, but then also just being at Wakilisha and seeing, obviously knowing from the legal team and the research team, just all the challenges that children face, that our advocates face, in representing children who are in conflict with the law, and also having the privilege of hosting this podcast and hearing from all, our guests, speak about all the challenges. And it's, whether, the system has failed us in so many ways, or whether it's just people in our communities not understanding that children can be in conflict with the law. And I think that's just right where most of the problems start, so that people don't see it as a problem. So there are no solutions. Only the few people in the sector or who are working with children in conflict with the law get to see this and are advocating for this. And I guess that's why this podcast is a good platform to amplify, these problems and for this word to get out there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Joy, these cases tend to affect more than just the client. The parents and the guardians are heavily and directly affected. What has been your experience working with your clients' guardians and as well as other stakeholders?
Yeah. So thank you for that. So definitely when you have a child going through the justice system, there's so many stakeholders and people involved, right?
Okay.
So just to say, these children come from a home or a community.
Yeah.
So that's the first point of contact, right? And more often it's their parent or guardian or relative, whoever the child is staying with. And of course, this takes them by surprise. Their child has been taken in, right? And now, of course, there's just adjustment you have to make, and you have to, of course, explain to them what is happening, what would be happening, what can they expect. They are also trying to deal with the fact that sometimes, especially in situations where the child needs to be detained, right, that the child is not going to be with them for that period of time, right? And first of all, you have to say who you are. Who is Wakilisha? So maybe it's good to say how we get these cases. Is that sometimes we get them through the correctional centers, like YCTC, and would ask for a list of baby children who are unrepresented. Sometimes you bump into them in court. And so you have to now, the first people you have to talk to is the guardian and get their consent, that tell them that you wish to support their child through this process. So there's, of course, that. And throughout the case, you really have to engage with the parent. And especially if the child is out on bail, to make sure that the child, anytime they're needed in court, you must coordinate with the parents to make sure that they bring them to court, right? And they make sure that the child is well presented when they come to court. And because if you have them out and they miss a date, then that becomes a problem. A warrant of arrest could be issued, right? So that coordination is very important. Sometimes you have parents who are over concerned, and then there's others who are maybe not that concerned. So that also poses a challenge. Then there's other stakeholders that you definitely deal with. Mostly when by the time you get a matter, you're not dealing with the law enforcement officers like the police, unless now it comes to the trial of the case, right? You deal with people like probation officers, when you're considering the probation report and everything, you deal with them. You deal, of course, work very closely with the office of the ODPP. So you work very closely with the prosecutor to even see how, if the case is taking long, those are the people you raise it with. Yeah, maybe if the case hasn't set off, yeah, trying to find alternatives for this child, right? Ideally, you should also deal with children officers, but you rarely see them. That's the reality, especially in matters of children in conflict with the law. And of course, there's the judicial officers, right, at the registries. And also at of course, now the presiding judges or magistrates who are dealing with the matter. So those are basically the stakeholders that you deal with. And I think my experience has been that a lot of the judicial officers are not judicial officers, a lot of the stakeholders may not be well informed with matters of the children in conflict with the law. But I know a lot is being done to make sure that improves so that the child's rights don't end up being violated and the process is a child-friendly system. Yeah.
Awesome. Right?
I like what you just said about most of the stakeholders not being informed, because that's what communications at Wakilisha, public advocacy, that's what we want to do, right? To make sure that stakeholders are informed, and, it's whether it's through this podcast, whether it's through newsletters, whether it's through our social media posts, for them to engage in, all this, and for them to know that this is happening and how they can play a part in it. And yeah, my experience has been exactly that: people reaching out to us with, whether they want to volunteer, or whether they want to know more, or people. I think these times we've had people write to us in our DMs and ask, very specific questions, and they don't know where to start. And, we either tell them that, yeah, this is something that is child in conflict with the law related, or maybe this is something that you should take up with a different agency. So things like that. And it's been great to see that people at least have avenues like Wakilisha that they can reach out to and find help, or even if it's not exactly help, but then they know where to start, their journey, or where to go look for help. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Can I just say something that I think is also, aside from now what Wakilisha is doing for maybe advocates and the general public, I think the judiciary is also doing a lot in as far as social transformation through access to justice is concerned. There is a deliberate move to make sure that judicial officers are trained in matters of children in conflict with the law, and that they are dedicated. They are trained in this through the Kenya Judiciary Academy, I think. And also now maybe I think now for lawyers it's up to now LSKs for us to see how best we can also improve the capacities of lawyers, pro bono lawyers who are representing these children in these matters, so that we don't have the same thing recurring. So yeah, I think what needs to be done is just to actualize those thoughts of training everyone, the whole system, from the lawyers to just basically all the stakeholders in matters of children in conflict with the law. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like what would you, okay, I'm just wondering, in terms of psychosocial support to not only the clients, but also the guardians, do you think, is there enough being done, or like what, sorry.
Thank you. That's a good question. I think in a child-friendly justice system, then we should also have people like psychologists who support the system, who become part of the stakeholders or part of the actors throughout the process, but from the time that the child is taken in. So I think it's just integrating the work of psychologists or counselors with the court system, so that these children are supported, their psychosocial support is guaranteed throughout the pendency of the matter, which will also help them after, right? And they can also support the parents, because what happens when you take up a matter as a lawyer, you find yourself multitasking between offering legal help
Yeah.
and also psychosocial, which in all honesty, half the times you have no capacity
True.
you don't have the know-how of how to support the families from a psychosocial perspective. Yeah.
Right?
No, actually, I would say exactly that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So Bright, what would you say to the lawyers who would want to provide access to justice in conflict with the law? Is there hope?
Of course, there is.
Okay.
And I know most times people, not just followers, but then human nature in not, most of us just don't know where we can fit in or where we can help or how we can plug into something. Just ask, say I'm a lawyer. I would like, I have some free time. I want to help out with this. How can I do that? Whether it's Wakilisha, whether it's any other organization that, does the work that you want to support, yeah, just reach out. And believe you me, there is so much that you can help with. There's a lot of help needed. You are very useful, so just reach out.
Mathani?
Yeah, just start. Just start, whether through Wakilisha or when if a matter comes up and you're there and you see a child unrepresented. I think it's our role as advocates to just step up at any point.
Okay.
And ensure that you don't witness a child unrepresented and we are sitting there. So it's just to take it up and now ask for the necessary help. So if you're taking it up privately, I think Wakilisha is also able to give you guidance on anything you would like to know in as far as children in conflict with the law. But it's just shooting your shot and just trying, just doing it. Yeah.
So if you could change something in the legal sector and Bright comms, maybe name something you would like to see change or the gaps you'd like to see filled.
In the general
Yes.
system. I think for me, number one would be the training of, I'll speak for lawyers first because I'm one, and also the other people in the justice, within the child justice system. And training would start from our initial training in school, where we are made aware of these children and how we can support them. So when that is encultured in us, we are able to have a natural transition into the system, and also for the various stakeholders, so from the office of the ODPP to the probation office, to the judicial officers, to the law enforcement officers, the whole chain, I think just needs some training right there.
Okay.
That's what I would say. I think the next thing is just really an awareness and sensitization that these are children, full stop, without putting any other label. These are children, right? And just an awareness that whatever, like how we should endeavor to make sure that the process is one that does not harm them more, but transforms them, right? So just seeing that child-friendly justice system as a reality in how we treat them, in how we make sure that for those who need rehabilitation and correction, so that they're able to reintegrate back into society, because they are really the future, if not the present.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, that's something I will make sure that I personally do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, from a communications perspective, I think it's just mostly how these stories are told, whether it's by mainstream media, how they report children cases, just how they refer to children in conflict with the law, just small things like those. And yeah, just shifting the mentality from, problematic, troublesome, children who had to get in trouble with the law, but then what exactly these people are. They're children, they're in conflict with the law. And yeah, report it as it should be. Be mindful of them as children. Like Joy said, they only have so much or so long as children, and then they're adults, and then they have to deal with the consequences of all that. And anyone outside mainstream media, there's people like us doing podcasts. In whatever media outlet channel that you have, if you can continue to amplify these voices, let people know what is being done, what the struggle is, and just make people aware. Because if there's anything that I've learned in the past almost 4 years with Wakilisha, is people do not know about what happens.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. And just to add on that, I was a bit green when I joined Wakilisha. Like, I didn't know, like, children can be, like, even at if there are prisons where children are incarcerated. Because, again, I watch a lot of documentaries. So predominantly, that's why I can say, like, I acquire most of my information on what's going around. And there's not much information when it comes to children in conflict with the law, and specifically in Africa or even in Kenya. So interesting. Thank you for your insights.
Of course.
So we decompress over here, where we play a game that Bright refused. So
For
I'm
good
going
reason.
to no. You said that was your intellectual property, so I respect that. So I'm going to ask you a question. If you'll be a kitchen appliance, what will you be?
Wow. Kitchen appliance.
Okay, let me go first because I love cooking. For me, it will be a food processor. I think it can shred vegetables. Like, it's multi-purpose for me. So, or maybe no, I'll stick with a kitchen like a kitchen
Food processor.
food processor. Sorry, I'll stick by that for Joy.
Okay, kitchen appliance. I'm trying to scan through my little house and seeing what appliance would make most sense in my current life. I think maybe a fridge. Wow. Yeah. Maybe a fridge. I'm just thinking straight off my I think a fridge preserves food, right? Keeps it in the right temperature and everything. Yeah. To make sure it doesn't go bad. So I'm just trying to see how that relates to life.
Yeah, but okay.
Okay. Let me switch. Let me say a spoon. A spoon is very
It's not an
useful.
appliance.
It's okay, an appliance. Okay, it's not an
It's an
appliance.
item in the kitchen.
It's an item.
I've said specifically a kitchen
An
appliance.
appliance.
Sorry.
Wow. Okay. Let me say a mixer. A mixer, the one used to bake cake.
And do you bake cakes?
I do. I actually bake. Yeah. I
Why
should
did you
bake for
ask it like
sometime.
that?
Yeah, right. A baker. She's a baker. I actually bake. Yeah, a mixer puts good things together and produces a very good product. So that's what I can actually say. So scratch the fridge.
But it only has one use, like mixing.
Yes, it puts it together.
But it serves her right.
But if
properly.
the ingredients are off, it won't be of much help.
No. That is my appliance. Zippie, that's my appliance.
No, I'm just trying to challenge it, but I respect that.
Yes, please respect
There's
my
no
appliance.
democracy here, clearly.
You know, I have been questioned, my baking, my everything.
Right?
Oh, well, I obviously have different appliances that I can mention because I love the kitchen. But I think I would be a chopper. Just because of how easy it makes my life. And yeah, it's just a very small, tiny appliance that's super useful and super efficient and saves so much time. I'd be that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, Zippie was on a roll. She was on a roll.
Yeah, I know, Bright.
It's for kata. It's the one for mboga.
Well, I use it for everything. Tomatoes, onions, whatever you do. I don't have to waste
You
time
need to plug me on that
chopping
one.
things. I will. I tell everyone about it. I will.
Yeah.
They're not paying me to advertise it here, so I won't. But on the side.
Wow, okay.
Zippie, I'll
Interesting.
bring you a cake that I've baked, so then you
No, I
start
thought I was the
respecting
only baker in
me.
Wakilisha, so
Well, I'm not extra like you.
But we also haven't eaten your products in so long. It's about time someone else
I
started
just wanted you
baking.
to acknowledge I'm the baker in Wakilisha.
You wear the crown. You wear the crown. I'm not trying to bake for all of you.
Anyway, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to listen to episode 2 and episode 3 of our mini series on access to justice and the rule of law. Make sure you subscribe, rate us, and follow us on our socials at Wakili_sha on X, Wakili.sha on all other platforms. And until next time, thank you for tuning in.